This is not a matter of me questioning whether you or anybody else have a right to do what they want to do with their body. Okay, let me start off by saying this. I know that this doesn't apply to all women, and the women that it may apply to, this is not some type of diss, some type of put down, or some type of finger pointing video. And I ask to not just, automatically be dismissive or offended because this is coming from a man. Just hear me out. Okay, but what I want to talk about, what I wanted to bring up was how some women feel some type of empowerment, some type of revenge or I gotcha moment, or some type of liberation by moving a certain way sexually. When I say moving a certain way sexually, I'm talking about like sleeping around, doing other loose sexual related things like stripping, being proud of that, or being proud of twerk culture, kind of like have this boldness. I can do whatever I want, this is my body type of thing, right? Look, it is your body, right? Each person have they have the right to do whatever they want to do with their body. This is not a matter of me questioning whether you or anybody else have a right to do what they want to do with their body, right? This is not a misogynistic video. Hear what I'm saying. One thing that I hear women say in relation to, when this topic get brought up about women, moving around or sleeping around or, being loose sexually with their body. One thing that I hear women say is, oh, when a man sleep around or do this or do that sexually, people don't have as much pushback about it. Or may even go as far to say a man would get celebrated or props for moving a certain way. But when a woman do it, it's a problem. It's a they would say that it's a double standard. Let me say this, right? Women, this is what I hear some women say. When you see a man moving around that way, just sleeping around, or got a girlfriend, or got a wife, he cheating on her, he do this, he do that, women usually label men like that as no good or dogs or some other term that they would, right? So they're looking at this and, deeming this as inappropriate or bad behavior, right? So why should it be mimicked? Now, it's fair to hold people accountable as, men for that bad behavior. I'm with you on that. But to say, well, when men, saying it as like, well, this is a defense for me do it because men do the bad, what I deem doggish, no good behavior, so I'ma do it. Since when is that a reason to do something? Because somebody else doing something bad or wrong or that you deem no good or dog-like? Should you operate with your sex drive like a dog or like a no good person too? How that's going, you're not supposed to mimic that. That's not a reason to do that, right? I mean, I think we can agree on that. I think something that women need to really, pay attention to in relation to just moving around a certain way like that sexually. I think that women need to really pay attention to how unnatural it is for a woman to do that. Like I said, this is not an excuse for a man to go around being sexually irresponsible neither, right? But look, when something is okay, you say, how is it unnatural? Okay, let me give some examples, right? Let's say people are already married. Nobody is like being loose, sleeping around or nothing like that. You got a husband, you got a wife, right? When it comes to this area of sex, right? Even within a marriage, you can still see that woman being the more of the one that's being pursued versus being the one that's the pursuer. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that a woman don't ever initiate sex with her husband. Don't get me wrong, right? But for the most part, generally speaking, you know what I'm saying? It's the woman, the man don't require as much, right? That's all the man needs you to a lot of times do is be available and he's willing, right? It'd be the woman who, okay, spend time with me. They may not be in the mood right now, right? They might want to be wine and dine, taking out on a date, stuff like that. That's more of the woman's natural posture when operating in that lane of sex, right? So to be doing it the other way around, because the other way around, just hopping here and there, showing my body, I don't care this, that's operating out of more away from the natural state of how the woman will move sexually, right? And when anything, whether it's a man, woman, some type of object, when something is operating outside of the natural way that it's supposed to be used, typically you would say, hold up, now what's causing this? This not how this supposed to even be operating. What's causing this to operate this way? Right? That's typically how that go. So with that being said, right, I think that women, because look, there are certain things, whether we talking about individually within that with that particular individual, that particular woman, or whether we talking about from like a societal point of view, that are more like layers up that can be impacting how that natural use of your sex drive, right? Which is a natural thing. Nobody have to teach you a sex drive. Nobody have to teach you to have these feelings. You know, that's naturally in you, right? But certain things can be impacting that and attached to that, like I talk about in other videos, right? And this is why that is so important, right? Okay, I don't think it's a coincidence when a woman is moving around like she may deem a irresponsible man, a man that's moving like a dog. I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of this stuff, whether from an individual, well, let's talk from a societal point of view, right? Because I think a lot of this, in my opinion, could have got started from real things, from real issues that women had in society. I call this pimping people's pain. This is not a woman thing. This is not a man thing. This is not a black, white thing. This is not a rich, poor thing. Anybody can have their pain pimped, right? In this instance, I believe that the woman's pain, legit pain, has been pimped, and sexuality has been attached to it, and now it's looked at as if like you're empowered. You're a true woman when you can just sleep around indiscriminately. When you can look, stuff like women at one point not being able to vote right in this country. Stuff like women, not being able to have a bank account until a certain period of time in this country, right? Discrimination on the jobs. These are actually real issues that women have to deal with. Real legitimate issues, right? Now, what happened was, someone attached some type of sexual freedom or, doing whatever that you want sexually as a form of, that's right, nobody can tell you nothing as a woman. You equal, you are equal, right? But does that exclude you from being responsible sexually? Just like you would, that dude who you would deem a dog, cheating on his wife, not having no real intentions with women, but just like, making them believe whatever they want to believe, get them emotionally invested and just to have sex with them and run and then hop to the next one. You want to hold him accountable, right? He's not exempt from being responsible sexually, right? Just because he a man. Just like a woman isn't exempt from being, being held accountable and being responsible with her sex drive just because she's a woman, and just because there's some real things that the female gender have and may still be going through. Just because you have real things and somebody attached being loose sexually to those issues, right? Because a lot of these issues is rooted in women feeling like they're not on equal playing field with men in certain areas of life, right? And someone attached, getting around sexually to that, like both genders don't need to be sexually responsible. And I think some women actually, took that on and bit that became like a thing, that became like a culture, and then boom, now we here in this space. Women just being loose or moving around a certain way sexually ain't got nothing to do with the right to not vote, the finally being able to get a bank account, discrimination on it. Don't lump up being sexually irresponsible. They got a difference between a man trying to force you to have sex with. That's in the lane of, hold up, this is my body, you can't make me have sex with you. That and being sexually responsible is two different things. Stop equating the two. Stop taking that on, especially when you will hold a man accountable, aka being a dog, no good man, when he's loose sexually with his sex drive. You feel like, hey, I can make my own money. Go make your own money. Nothing wrong with making your own money. Just don't think that's a pass to be sexually irresponsible. And I'm trying to like expose how somehow getting around sexually, they got lumped up with real issues that women have to go with, and it's causing them to operate a certain way sexually that needs to be put on blast. Now, more from a that's more like a societal point of view. Now, from an individual point of view, you know, you have, and I talk about this in other videos, like dating wars and stuff like that. You know, you just have some hardships that a woman could have been through with a man. You know, a man could have, you know, dogged out, could have cheated on her, could have happened to her again. She could have some daddy issues. She could have some mommy issues. Mommy could have been a bad example when it comes to dealing with men. You know, and, you know, those heartbreaks or whatever can cause you to maybe resistant when it comes to the romances. Because I like to say sex and romance is tied at the hip. That can cause you to be resistant when it comes to the romance, because you got to give more of yourself when it comes to romance. But still just want the feeling of sex, orgasm, and then cause you to start moving around like that. That's why I'm saying some of those on the surface things that's attached to your sex drive, whether it's from a societal point of view or individual point of view, it can be finances or whatever, those things need to be checked and addressed, because it can impact how you're going to use that natural inner sex drive that you have, that nobody have to teach you, that's already naturally there, right? These things are attached to those things and can impact those things, even though some of these things might not be natural things, it might be more societal things, the social things. It's still attached to that natural, you know, sex drive that you have in you. So you may, instead of just embracing moving around like that sexually, you may need to address and figure out what's going on with some of these things, because that can be the very reason why you move in a certain way, and it, you know, it can just help you be a better person, be better in life in general. You know, rectifying those things, identifying those things, healing those things, or whatever it is you need to do.